Welcome, level uppers, to our first ever level up review.
Our very first.
Very first. Of review. For a movie
It's
called It Follows.
Is that your like inside the actor studio voice?
I guess.
I like that one. That was good.
We've done some game reviews and stuff like that, but we're doing our very first movie review. Eventually, this could be a part of Lights Up show, you know, if we ever get to that. It Follows came out in wide release very recently. It was kind of like a little indie guy, you know, in like 100 or 2 in theaters.
And I felt it all the way through.
Yeah, you could feel that it was an indie film. We'll get to like the major plot of it in a second, but it got amazing reviews, is what we kept seeing from the very beginning. Since like a month or 2 ago, it was in the 90s, and it's just been consistently climbing to the point where it's actually now at 96.
Is it 96? It was 95 that I saw earlier.
Yes, now at 96. I just checked right before the show. So we were pretty excited for this because horror movies don't typically do that well.
Me especially, we don't care about horror movies.
Yeah, it's very rare that a horror film is like
Insidious. Great reviews for the most part.
Yeah.
For people that like horror movies. I tried watching it. I couldn't get into it.
I thought Insidious was alright.
I didn't think it was bad.
What was the last horror movie we all enjoyed?
The Conjuring was another one that reviewed
I haven't seen
very
that one
well.
yet,
I haven't seen it either, and I really need to see it.
You would love that one.
Conjuring is good.
Which one's
Farmiga?
Which one's the Conjuring?
The Conjuring is with the girl from Bates Motel. She plays the mom.
That's helpful.
And that's it's her and the dad, and they have the doll that's possessed. And it goes.
You know Vera Farmiga, right?
The
Vera
one
Farmiga,
you've seen it, right?
Yeah, it's so good.
Annabelle.
The
They
whole
made a
scene at the
sequel,
end.
right? Annabelle's.
Annabelle. And
the whole part at the end in the basement.
Yeah.
In the
Oh, don't
farmhouse.
tell me.
Yeah, and
I
she does
haven't
the
seen
snap.
it.
Dude, I said basement and farmhouse.
The trailer.
2
It's
words.
over.
The trailer for Insidious was the snaps. If you remember the trailer,
Yes.
it was the snaps, and she's in the basement, and the guy blows out the candle, and she's like,
And like you see the case of the
Yeah.
doll.
Well, real quick, since we're on the
Anyway.
the topic of like future horror movies, how about that one trailer we saw today for Unfriended?
oh, I
dude,
loved it. I'm so excited.
Are we gonna see that?
Easily. We
You
can.
know what it reminded me of? Sorry to interrupt you, but it literally
No, it's perfectly
reminded me of the silly movie that she does in Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Remember how he was talking about how a cell phone kills you?
Yeah.
That's what it fucking reminded me.
That was a movie. I can't remember what the name of that movie was, but there was a movie where
A phone killing you is kind of like The Ring or whatever as well. But honestly, the concept of the movie is very, you know, generational. You know, it's part of this generation. But in that way, it almost feels like it hits too close. It's like this could actually happen, which kind of makes me feel awkward.
You're like really hit the nail on the head with that one.
It's almost like too accurate. It's like I could totally see something like this happening and it's messed up.
Right, and that's what I want to see, just because it looks like. I mean, let's be honest, it's going to be awful.
The concept, if you guys don't know, is basically a girl gets drunk, wasted in this movie for Unfriended, and people record her and they upload it on YouTube, and it becomes this viral thing where her life is pretty much ruined, and she kills herself also on video.
Oh, no.
And then a year later, these kids are doing a Skype call, and somebody hacks in to the Skype, kind of acting like it's the girl that died, saying, who uploaded the video, I'm going to kill somebody every whatever minutes. So it's a really crazy concept and kind of freaky. I don't know.
Like, do you think? Like, I mean, I don't. We're not. That's not.
I'm not going to get too much into that, but it does look interesting. Yeah.
The one I realized 1 second. Get the shit. 2008. One missed call was the thing, and I remember that movie distinctly because I made all my friends' ringtones one night at a sleepover. The ringtone from the movie, so that when they all got a phone call, it was the ringtone that they had to. And they were all like, "Oh my god, it was the best thing I've ever."
But there was a preview in there that I did want to see with the what was that one with the clown? With the little
the Poltergeist.
Poltergeist. No, maybe it wasn't that one. What was the other one? There was another one that looked.
There was a few horror movies.
We saw 55 trailers before the movie.
That's like the best horror movie. What did I say? I was like, that would be the best horror movie ever. Going into thinking that you're seeing a movie and it's just a bunch of trailers and it never gets to the movie.
The Insidious prequel?
Maybe that's what
Insidious Part 3 with the girl and the mom dies?
Yeah.
Is that what you're thinking of?
That was literally saw 50 freaking.
Yeah, there was a lot of
and they were all horror movie trailers.
No, Mad Max.
Makes sense, right?
And
Mad
the douche
Max,
movie.
That was kind of a weird one in there.
Right? Like,
that was like the kind of indie, family-friendly comedy.
The douche one?
You know, it's sensitive but funny. It's like, all right, let's get back on topic. We're talking about It Follows. The basic concept of this movie is, well, let's play the trailer real quick. Just 30 seconds of the trailer. Let's show off a little bit of it. I don't want to play the whole thing.
You do full screen?
Sequel coming soon. It's still following.
Here you go, guys. Watch this real quick. Like 30 seconds of it, at least.
I used to daydream about being old enough to go on dates. I had this image of myself holding hands with a really cute guy, driving along some pretty road. It's never about going anywhere, really. It's having some sort of freedom, I guess.
Jay? You awake? You're not gonna believe me, and I need you to remember what I'm saying. This thing, it's gonna follow you. Somebody gave it to me, and I passed it to you.
And that's basically it. That's basically the concept right there.
So, from the trailer, it sounds like he gave her an STD.
Well, that's kind of what basically that's the concept.
That's exactly what it is.
Sexually transmitted.
It's an STD.
Of a
sexually transmitted.
I even said it to you.
STGD. No.
Yeah.
I was like, this is the worst STT ever. That's what I said to him.
Oh, it definitely is. And that's the thing is, at the beginning, you're kind of wondering, is it real? But the film starts with a girl running around, like nobody else can see this thing. She's just running. Like,
notably really in heels.
Right, and we had no idea what was going on at that point.
And then she goes to a beach and she calls her parents. Like, you can tell that she thinks it's over. She's like, I love you guys so much. You know, like, I'm sorry for being a bitch all the time. And then the next thing you see her, and she's like broken in half. Like, so it's like, okay, this is real. Like, whatever.
We have no idea what's going on, but.
So as you can see in the trailer, this girl is with a guy, and he gives it to her, like passing it on, and tells her that you have to continue to pass it on, or it's going to follow you.
So what's interesting about what you just said is you went from one girl to now a guy that's passing on to another. Mm-hmm. What's really cool about this movie, and what I really liked, was that there was no almost desire to explain anything.
Yeah.
Like, there was no desire to explain the girl we saw at the beginning, who inevitably gets killed.
Yeah.
There's no desire to explain how the new guy gets it himself. And why, more so where it even came from.
I think that's the appeal of this film, too, because especially because you have films like Paranormal Activity, who now, in its 6th iteration, is still trying to tell you, oh, well, now it's a witch cult that brought these ghosts about, now it's possessed, and this was the sister, and the reason why it's attacking this family is because the grandmother sacrificed the first son. Like, I could care less.
Well, that's what I've always said about horror movies, is sometimes what's great about a horror movie is when they don't explain why... Mm-hmm. Exactly. Like,
well, that's a very good point. Here's a question for you. Would you guys have liked it better if you never saw it?
No.
Because I think that would have been an interesting thing, right? Because I thought again, spoiler alert for the whole thing here, they get to the very end of the movie, and you're in the pool area where they're going to try to defeat the thing, right? And for a while there, they weren't showing it. She just kept pointing to it. Right. And I actually thought that was very intense. That they weren't showing it for a while there, and I kind of liked that.
That's where they lost me, was the moment when they didn't, like, when I couldn't see the thing. Like, I liked it taking, because if you guys haven't seen, like, the trailer and everything like that, as it goes on, it is the fictional poltergeist character that's haunting these people. And it takes the form of either people they know or past people that they've killed. So as it's coming around the film, like, at one point it's the girl's dad. At another point it's the boyfriend. It's a guy she sleeps with. It's the first,
it only ever walks, too. Right? Supposedly it's not unintelligent. The guy at the very beginning
says very intelligent.
It's not dumb, but it can only walk.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So you can escape this thing. If you drive really far away, it has to catch up to you. And that's kind of the concept of the movie for a while, is that they just kind of keep going from place to place, trying to keep away from it.
It is a speed walker.
Right, right. And that's the thing that I was going to say, is what really annoyed me about it, actually, was that, all right, it walks. It's great. So I have enough time. Well, apparently not. Like, I mean, I know I'm a big guy, but it would take me quite a long time to walk just from your house to my house, which really isn't that far. What, like 5 minutes maybe? Mm-hmm. You know, and yet in the movie, it's maybe an hour before it, walks, 50 fucking miles to a beach house. Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing, is he says that, but who knows if this isn't, like, truly supernatural, where this thing can just travel and, like, stuff like that. That's the thing about the movie that kind of is weird for me, especially at the end when they're trying to kill it. It's like, a lot of horror movies do this trope where it's like, they think they found a way to kill it, but it doesn't work. And it's like, well, obviously it's not going to work. This thing is not human. This thing is not real. Like, why do you think electrocuting it is going to kill it?
Scooby-Doo!
Yeah, this is...
you meddling kids.
That was and I'm glad that you agree with me, because that was my biggest problem with the movie. It was like, how do you come to the conclusion that electrocuting it is going to defeat it? Like, where did that come from?
Do we want to explain?
I want to go back to the basis of this movie a little bit here, and like the direction of it and all that kind of thing, because it has a very distinct vibe about it. First of all, it's timeless. Yes. It doesn't have an era to it, and it's intentional.
I really enjoyed that
right from the beginning.
Yeah. You're like, is this 80s? And then you see her holding a clamshell with like an e-reader on it.
Right.
Yeah.
Which,
like, okay.
That was Greg's favorite part of the movie.
The clam. The clam knows all.
He would not shut up about that thing, by the way. The entire movie, you just kept talking about it. But it was weird because, like, you get a sense that it is current time in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
But yet they're watching black and white movies.
Well, no, that has nothing to do with it, because they were watching classic.
television.
They were watching They were watching Young Frankenstein. I don't care.
But it was on like a.
And they had the dial.
But that's
on top of tube TV.
More so when the girls, and then she also has a cell phone. Remember, she calls her dad at the beginning.
Yep. Yeah, she needed to have cell phone in order to call her father.
The thing is, you couldn't see what kind of cell phone it was. Really, that was it a flip phone? That was something he was distinctly trying to do. I was reading up right before we started this. Is he didn't want for sure to show any smartphones, and also definitely not computers. There's no computers in the entire film because he didn't want it to get to that point where you have this reliance on that kind of technology because it ruins a lot of horror movies nowadays. Like back in the 70s, it's like you couldn't just pull out a cell phone and be like whatever, you know, or use it as a flashlight in this area and all these kind of things. It's like nowadays we have to remove technology.
A perfect example is like When a Stranger Calls. Is like that movie was completely undone by the fact that there are cell phones and stuff and caller ID. Like completely dismantle all of that movie and the idea of the fear of somebody calling from inside the house and all that kind of stuff.
Well, like you said, it's definitely timeless in the fact that it doesn't fall into any era, and even like you said, it was almost an 80ish feel, but it said modern. But at the same time, it even went back further than the 80s because it had like ham radios from.
And also the nurses in the hospital.
The nurses had like
even kind of had a 70s, even a little bit kind of vibe.
It was definitely timeless.
And it was all over the place, right?
And I think it
but not just that, the music is electronica kind of sound, and it's done by
kind of sounds and stuff.
And it's done by the guys that did Fez, which made perfect sense from the very beginning. I was like, I feel like I'm playing Fez right now.
And then when you got home, you got so excited when you found out who actually made the music.
But it was solid. Like that was one of the probably the best parts of the film was the score, the opening, especially with. You could clearly see he was going for that John Carpenter-esque, like, ding, 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 ding. Like, it was very intense.
I think one of the greatest compliments I can give to the film was it kind of, while I was watching it, you know how, like, you talk about how a movie can, if certain things can take you out of a movie, you're like, you realize, oh, like, I don't like that, or maybe something makes you cringe, is when she was being followed in the high school. When she was in the high school being followed by the old woman. It's like, a lot of movies would have done a bad job with that scene, and you would have been like, oh my god, this is so corny. Well, she's being followed by an old woman. But I was genuinely rattled by that. Like, it was unsettling. This woman in just following her.
The entire movie was,
and they did a good job with
that. So much scary as much as eerie and made you feel anxious.
Right, I got a very strong feeling of anxiousness. And what's cool is no one else, like I think we've already brought up, no one else can see it but you.
Yeah.
So the entire time she's trying to explain to everybody, her friends and everything like that, and they just don't
the people that pass
her.
It on, notably too.
Right. Yeah. Right, and so if you had it first, like let's say you had it and gave it to somebody else, you can still see it, but you know,
they can also still see it. It's just not going after.
And that's what ends up happening later on in the movie. It becomes a key part of the movie, actually. But in the beginning, it's a lot about her just trying to convince her friends that she's seeing it, and eventually they do believe her as she pretty much jumps out like a window.
Yeah,
you know, almost. So it makes a lot of really stupid trope decisions.
And it took a lot from other horror films. Like it almost had the Final Destination feel of like, okay, it's going to kill in this order, and it has to kill in this order, otherwise it can't go on to the next person.
They did do the trope. Like they did the trope about like her heading up, like you were saying, like kind of like heading up the stairs instead of going out the front door. And I was like, what are you doing?
And some of them, like we said, it takes on multiple forms. And you get to see what some of them are. One's like a little creepy 10-year-old boy that's looking at naked girls through the window, so it takes that form.
That was really weird.
That was really weird, by the way.
The few forms that it didn't, like they didn't explain what the forms were. There was this one like 7-foot tall man that had like hollowed out eyes.
Yeah, what did you call him?
Terrified me. Bigfoot.
You were calling him both Bigfoot.
And then when she's in the school, we brought up that scene before, and there's this old woman.
I think that was her grandmother, by the way.
Down on.
In the scene beforehand,
they showed the picture.
I think that was supposed to be your grandmother.
And she's walking down, and then she says to there's 2 girls in the hallway, and she's like, "Hello," and the old woman doesn't answer back, and the girls are like, "Hi," like, what are you talking about?
One thing I could say also about the movie is, for the most part, I want to say the entire movie. For the most part, I felt that the teenagers felt pretty natural. Like, I felt like it was like pretty well done in the way that teenagers talk to each other.
Definitely.
I thought that the girl with the clamshell here and there was a little.
God, I hated the farter.
She was the weak link. I felt like acting-wise as well.
But I feel like that added more to it because everyone has the annoying friend of the group. You know?
No, I meant like acting-wise too. I felt like she was the weakest actor.
I was thinking about it afterwards. Like, was she the one that everybody was expecting to die? Like,
no, I was totally from the very beginning expecting the boy across the street.
So why don't we go through the characters that are in the movie, because we haven't even touched on that.
Well, you've got your main character, Jay, and she's the one who's infected, if you want to call that. And
the blonde one that
you've got Hugh, the guy that gave it to her. You've got her sister, who I don't know her name.
Kelly.
She was nice looking.
You've got you got Paul, who is the childhood friend that clearly has a crush on Jay.
Yeah.
Looks kind of like what I imagine Rick looking like. Let's just put that out there.
And then you've got
Greg, the boy next door.
Greg, the boy next door.
And then you have the clam, is what I call her.
And
she was the one on the clammy reader.
And it's
notably the only line she had in the entire film. I don't know if you guys noticed, but it was all of her excerpts from the book she was reading.
Yeah, which I was trying to figure out if there was some symbology to the things that she was reading off. Like, was there some poignant?
That's what I was trying
to
read.
You know, there was another homage to Almost Halloween, like was when she was in the school and her teacher was reading kind of the poetry. Really made me think of Halloween.
Oh, yeah, looking out the window.
And looking out the window. That was definitely
that's
a
another
Halloween
big
homage.
trope, and it's not just horror movies. But why in every movie does the student sit in the corner next to the window?
Yeah.
They're
Like,
always
why?
by the window.
And they're always in the corner next to the window.
And this one, it made sense.
Yeah,
You have, like you said, make sure you are in a room with multiple exits.
Yeah.
Never be in a room with no exit.
And that was
which she does such a poor job of paying attention to what she's doing.
Yeah, because clearly Hugh did that. When they go to try and find Hugh and figure out what this is all about, you can see the place that he was in. He basically put like all these little like can chandeliers in front of all the windows so we'd hear things.
Like sound alarm.
And
all these different ways of getting out.
He covered up with paper so that when something broke a window, he could see where the window was.
There were a lot of things that drove me nuts about like what she did. Like for example, when she was in the pool and she went down into the water, it's like, and then when she was up above the water, when she was kind of like looking down at the water, why would you not be 360 turning around the entire time looking for this fucking thing?
Well, and
like, or why not at the very end? Why not just push all of the electronics into the pool too, like on top? Like,
yeah, you already got that far. Why not try harder?
You still got like 30 around.
Well, there's a couple of weird things, but what's interesting is actually we probably should focus a little more on Paul. Paul was more of a key player in the whole movie than...
This movie was very much about the trope of sex kills in teenage slasher films.
Yes.
And it's about,
you lose your virginity, you're gonna die.
Yeah, and that's kind of, it's this cool thing of like passing along it though with this STD style. But Paul is horny teenager, so desperate to get with Jay.
I would say even horny teenager. He's just more so.
I think he was
fixated.
in love with her.
Yeah, he was fixated.
Oh yeah, he's clearly
enamored. He wanted everything to do with her.
So much so that he was pretty willing to be like, you know, if it follows me, I had sex.
Yeah. Right, and he offers this in the beginning. He offers this in the beginning multiple times. Once he starts believing her, it takes her a little while to get everybody to believe her.
Yeah.
There's the one scene where you think that it's going to grab her friend when she's knocking on the bedroom door, and they're like, "Who is it?" She's like, "It's just me." I'm like, bitch, no! There's something else!
The one thing that aggravated me throughout the movie was, I feel like they established Jay's character as kind of like the strong girl, and then they kind of made her a whore throughout the rest of the film. She had sex with every single guy.
That's the thing, is that was totally the part of the trope of this, like, sex kills, is she became, like, she became a virus.
Yeah.
She was spreading it intentionally.
Yeah, like when she went out to the boat to have sex with the three guys.
Yeah.
Like,
they mirror that in her.
There's other movies that have done that too, and I'm trying to think of what it is. Is it Teeth?
Teeth.
I'm thinking of like actually trying to pass. Like I'm thinking.
Or Jennifer's Body.
Like Jennifer's Body.
Even
like Thinner. Where he has this curse and he's so desperate to give it to other people that like even his wife at the end, and then it becomes his daughter.
That ending of Thinner isn't all like I didn't really care for Thinner that much, but the ending of that movie with the pie and everything,
and then he accidentally gives it to his daughter.
Yeah, it's an awesome ending.
But overall, like when I see these kind of things in movies, these like passing it along, and you see like the corruption of the main character because they're so desperate to get rid of the curse, it makes me feel like dirty and like I don't like it. Like I don't like the way it feels.
But that's what I'm saying though. That's what made me angry because every time she was faced with it, like it was never her decision to give it away. Like Paul kept asking her, and she was like, "No, like I don't want to put that on you."
Yeah.
Like the only reason why I did it with Greg is because he was like asking for it, and he didn't believe me. So she kind of did it as like a vindictive thing of like, "You don't believe me? Well, then here you go."
Well, I don't think that she was a bad person. That's exactly what it is. I think that she cared for him too, and that's why she didn't want to.
Yeah, she didn't want to give it to Paul because she didn't want to
give it to him.
Yeah,
but I think it's just like anything. Like the smartest thing that she could possibly do is obviously to try to like almost use it as a weapon against people who are monsters, so just kind of sleep with bad people.
Can we talk for a second about the annoying neighbor next door, Greg, the guy that looks like he's trying to audition for the bad guy from or the punk from Breakfast Club?
We're talking about the guy that was given the STD by Jay.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, from the very beginning, I was like, this guy has got to be the one that gets it second.
He's going to be in there some way.
Because he kept coming back across the street, and you could tell he was like a dirty, like,
he played the, I don't
guy.
believe you, this isn't all real, and that's how you know you're going down.
Yeah. And what was annoying is it took a while for it to come for him. Like, with Jay, it was constantly there, like, all the time. And that's what I was saying. Remember how I was saying, like, it was right in front of her as they were leaving to go to the beach house. It was, like, following them from, her driveway. And then they get to the beach house, and it's there within, like, what, not even a full day? And then with him, he's, like, 2, 3, 4 days later.
Yeah. It's a plot device in his case because it was supposed to build the tension of, is it gone? Is it, like, what happened here? Like, why isn't it following him?
Was Jay making it all up? Yeah. And then I thought it was going to link it to, you made a comment after the movie of, like, maybe she had an abusive dad or something. And I thought that they were going to go into, like, it's just in Jay's head. Like, this girl's so messed up. Like, none of this happened.
But then the beginning of the movie would come back, and it would be like, how did that girl die then, right? Because I feel like the beginning of the movie was meant to establish that this is real. Like, this is not fake.
Notably, we never said whatever it is, as it kills you, it has sex with you. That's how you die.
We never said sexes you to death.
Yeah,
right. And not even, like, it's so much so to the point that at the beginning, you see this girl and you think that, like, she got mangled. Like, she's destroyed. I even said because her leg is lifted in the air and broken in half and twisted. I said to him, I was like, is this the beginning of Jaws? Like, I thought it was really weird. No, what happened was it was just...
It was like grabbing her,
destroyed her. And same thing happened with Greg, who made a stupid freaking choice. And I said this to Drew.
Opening the door,
it was so annoying to me.
What do you want, Mom?
Right. Not even that. What were you going to say, though?
Well, no, the one thing I was going to say is that what drove me nuts is, like, you realistically, how could it not get you while you were sleeping for, like, you're sleeping for, like, 8 hours, you sleep for 8 hours.
That's why she was trying to keep people with her.
Well, and then one thing I would think, like, is the first thing I would do is before I would sleep is do what she did, which is just, like, to drive off as far as I possibly could and then just sleep in the car. Because that would give you some time.
We got 2 more topics here. We'll go through. First off, how would you deal with this situation if you had this STD? Second, we'll get into actually what what we thought of the movie overall, because we've gone through, like, our feelings on the movie and what happened.
Your idea is close to actually the perfect idea, by the way.
Okay, so we'll start with Greg. What would you do if you had this STD?
There was this little creeper boy that was stalking.
No, don't go into this one. You just sound like an asshole.
What was the other one I had?
Well, I'll tell you. I'll tell him that one.
I feel like
Come on, go ahead. No, tell this one.
There was this little creeper boy that was stalking the girl Jay throughout the whole movie, and I'm like, to be honest, like, I know it's sick, but, like, rape the little boy, because the little boy's going to be protected the whole time. The one thing that makes me, or makes everybody else...
You had to say rape, didn't you?
Well, wait, he's not going to want it willingly. He's not going to know what he's doing.
He is.
I think he's going to totally want it.
He was stalking the crap out of
it. Then. Okay, so hold on. So now this is an even better plan, I feel like. So the one thing that made me angry throughout the whole movie is that nobody's believing everybody, because once you get to a certain level of, like, adulthood, like, you can say crazy stuff, but as kids, you can say crazy stuff and, like, people will help you out.
Yeah.
So if he went to his mom and was like, listen, like, grandma's trying to come have a tea party, the mom would be like, listen, you can't be seeing your grandma, and it would have been killed that way.
What?
It would have worked. Or trap it in the clam. That would have worked too.
No, I don't think that would have worked.
Well, the first thing I would have done immediately was, like, as soon as, like, I was seeing this motherfucker following me, it's been like, this guy told me to have sex. I want to go have sex. Like, I want to find somebody, have protected sex, and just be done with it. But my thing, more than anything, is what I would obviously do is, I'd be living at sea. I'd get myself a boat. I'd go from port to port, get what I need, and then just be back on the water. Like,
I remember my other one now. Have sex with a porn star.
And that's actually pretty close to the ideal answer.
That doesn't work entirely, though, because she's only giving it to, like, one other person, potentially. The person online that I was reading said, have sex in a bisexual orgy. Because then it just goes all around, all at once.
Yeah, well, you could do, like, one of those scenes.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Well, get in there.
Javier, the pool boy, with Megan, the best friend.
That'll give it like 50 people all at once.
Yeah,
so at the end of the movie, I mean, what ends up happening is she kind of gives in to Paul. We haven't said that.
Like, right after they think it's dead, it's like, Paul didn't waste any time. He's like, all right, it's gone. Let's have sex. Like,
right.
He's like, I've been waiting for this for so long.
So, yeah, he ends up having it, and then we just see, and we didn't ever see anything definite. We just see a little clip of him driving down 8 Mile, by the way. It's in Detroit. Driving down 8 Mile past 2 prostitutes who I've named Hope and Dream, just because it's funny that way. And you just see him driving by and looking at them. Like, does he sleep with the prostitute? And if so, he might be okay for a little while, because then that prostitute's going to sleep with another one, and that guy's going to sleep with his wife, and his wife's going to go have an affair with the neighbor. And
see, that's where that one falls apart. Prostitute is like the worst. A porn star is much better, because a prostitute just sleeps with one guy, and then a guy, if he doesn't have sex with anybody except his wife or whatever, it's like, okay, 3 people.
Yeah, like,
but porn star, it's like,
ooh, it's
everywhere.
Oh, I got 8 shoots today. You're like, it's falling all down.
My idea is almost like Anthony's. You just get a bunch of money, fly overseas, stay there. You basically, first, before you do that, you have to calculate how fast it can travel to you, right? Then once you figure that out, fly overseas, see how far it was, all right? Then calculate how long it would take for it to get there, and when it's like almost there, then fly back over to the U.S. and then stay there for that same amount of time, and then keep going back and forth. And that way I'll never hit you. Their second idea, if you don't like that one because Greg didn't like it, is find an air tycoon, all right? Get him to take you aboard his blimp and constantly live up in the air and never have
Did you all just have a scene in your head where, like, it goes to the airport and, like, puts money on the counter and like, doesn't say anything? It's like, where are you flying to? It's just like...
That was my thing, as I was thinking what I would do is I would like
just write it down,
a boat that has like a vault inside of it, and I would like slowly like lure him on, like come on. Once he was on the boat, it would like leave the dock. I would go into the panic room vault area that has a secret exit, and then I would go all the way across the ocean to like Europe, drop him off. And then I would get out of my secret door, go on another boat, and go back home. And be like, we're over in Europe now. I'm back in America.
All 3 of their things made my raping of the little boy 10 times better.
The problem is here, it's like, I have a feeling that... What was that movie with Denzel Washington where the serial killer flips from body to body?
That's a really good movie, too.
Fallen?
No, it's not Face Off.
You know what I'm talking about? Guys,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Denzel Washington, serial killer... who always singing "Time is on my side."
Yeah.
At the time.
Oh, wait, you're thinking of the one with John Cusack, right?
Yeah, John Cusack's in it too.
Oh, what the hell is the name?
And so is
Oh, the movie Rock.
End of Time?
No, you guys all suck.
Help us out, guys.
I feel like it was like, I don't know, Fallen or something.
I don't look it up, guys. We have the internet. What are we?
What are we? In that kind of
cavemen?
Let me open up the clam.
In this movie, and it follows.
Get the clam out.
When it would switch scenes, like it would be in the same spot. Like say for instance, it's the mom having sex with Greg and killing him, and then by the time it walks out the door. Not this Greg. But by the time it walks out the door, it switched to a different person. So I wonder if it just had the ability to just like teleport and switch bodies and like you know, it's like who knows what this freaking thing is.
Fallen.
It's a
what was it?
Fallen?
Yeah,
Fallen. I got it.
Miss Amanda again.
But another good movie that I was thinking was The Bone Collector with Denzel Washington.
Okay. So I think like none of our things would work. I feel like because at the very end of the movie, what we see is they're walking hand in hand. Who knows what's going on? But behind them, you see like a boy walking. It could have just been a boy walking.
It could just be a regular boy walking because they've done that multiple times in the movie.
They did a good job with that too. How like you would always be looking around for like
people walking.
Where is it?
What was really creepy that they did in the beginning is they had the guy that she got it from originally. He named himself Hugh. His real name was John. Jeff,
yeah.
And they ended up finding him after he did whatever he did and left her and everything like that. They go talk to him in his backyard, which is apparently on a school.
No, he looks like he's dressed in like asylum clothes. Like he's in all white. And everybody that gets it to them dresses in all white.
They're sitting in a circle, and he's like, and that's when he explains, I can still see it. Yeah. If it kills you, it's gonna kill me too.
It goes back down the line.
Right, it goes back down. He's explaining everything, and the whole time he's explaining it in the circle, you just see this girl walking from the school down a soccer field with a backpack. But they did really well because they made the thing. What I like is they said it can only walk. It doesn't run or anything like that. But they had so many people in the movie just walking at such a casual, leisurely pace, and it was intentional, and I liked it. And that's what I really liked about this movie is they really did well with not only the music building the suspense like Halloween, which is my favorite horror movie of all time. It's one of the only ones I like because of that suspense it builds. But this one also builds it with the music and the pace that they have people take. And this girl is just walking casually down the whole time. Same thing when they were at the school, when they were in the library. That girl that was walking across the corridor with the backpack, it could have been something, but you never know.
Yeah, I mean, I personally thought that was it.
I'm pretty sure it was.
Like, at that moment, because, I don't know, the way it walks is a little bit more leisurely.
It's like almost like Terminator 2.
Not even though, like without emotion, like no, like, hop to the steps, it's just like, walk.
Right.
Very robotic, kind of. Yeah. So I felt like that was, the girl with the backpack, I thought for sure was it.
I liked, it was very, off-putting the beach scene. That was the one that gave me the most anxiety because you see the friend walking down the beach and I'm like, oh, it's just a clam girl. It was like, whatever.
Right.
Then all of a sudden, as it's getting closer and closer, they switch and the clam girl's in the ocean. And you're like, wait, what? And
then
you're like, oh my god, it's it. And you're like,
and he's doing that in the theater. He's sitting next to me. He's like, oh my god,
I was like,
oh my god, oh my god. And I'm like,
I grabbed both their arms at one point.
And what's cool about that scene is it's the first time you see like the ramifications of when it actually gets close enough to you. It's like, what does it do? And you see like Nightmare on Elm Street style.
Yeah,
you know,
I thought that. Yeah.
And, interacts like her hair lifts up, and then it's just like starts pulling her and stuff, and it throws Paul literally like pushes.
Well, he goes to hit it.
Smacks
he does it. He hits it.
Or he smacks it with a folding chair.
So at that point, you realize this is like a physical thing. It's you can't see it, but it's there. Because I was wondering, like, what if like somebody tried to hit it or something? Will you just like go through it? Like what? And
then
happens?
you see. So then they go and she was taking shooting lessons.
Yeah.
For some reason. But then, by the way, dumbest thing ever. If you're taking shooting lessons for a thing that's coming to get you and you have no idea when it's going to show up, why the fuck would you put the only gun back in a locked case?
Yeah.
Damn right.
No, the one thing that made me angry was, where is it? Point to it. Where is it? Oh, it's over there by all of our best friends. All right, let me shoot it. And then shooting the friend.
And he shoots the friend.
Dude, it got
that was fun.
All right, we've talked long enough about like all the little things that happen in the movie because most people don't know what we're talking about. Let's talk about overall our feelings on the movie. Greg, start with you.
Favorite part, soundtrack of the film.
Okay.
Least favorite part was the little cheap scares that they had in there, but what I did appreciate overall for the entirety of the film, I would definitely recommend seeing it. I don't know if I would necessarily recommend to pay for the movie, but if it's on there, I think
don't pay for it.
I think watching it is good. I liked
it's going to be video on demand very soon. I heard.
Yeah, and I liked and appreciated just that like their scares were not so much. Oh my god! It was more just like what's going to happen? What's going to happen? You know what I mean? They built up the tension so well, and it was never just like oh, loud noise.
What? Scares not so much, even though Greg said to me, like, oh my god.
Yeah, I was like,
I'm with you. I'm somebody that doesn't like the cheapness of a jump scare. And this movie did such a good job of being without it for so long that when it did happen, I was like, ah.
Yeah, it was
like the scene where she's like, for some reason, checking herself, and then you hear like her go, she's like breathing heavy, and then all of a sudden a dodgeball hits the window, and she's like, all right.
I'm glad that happened in the beginning.
And it made everybody jump, of course, because it's out of nowhere, but it's one of those cheap scares that like the movie did so well without for so long, because the movie wasn't trying to be scary in that way. It was just this eerie, anxious feeling the whole way through, and I would have been okay with that. No jump scares. So yeah, I do agree that was kind of a disappointment. I also agree that the score was
phenomenal. Best part of the film.
Fantastic.
Yeah, score was awesome.
Especially certain parts, like we said at the beginning, that ding, 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 like that was really, really good. It really built
really reminiscent of Halloween.
My complaint, and we talk about this a lot, is that it really wasn't a concept or a story that warranted even a 1 hour and a half movie, which is what this is.
You talked about.
It's not a long movie. It's only an hour and a half, but it
felt longer.
It actually kind of dragged. Like it was so concise an idea that they didn't want to expand upon what the origin of this thing was, to the point where it's like, okay, how do we fill out 90 minutes on this? And I felt like it did start to drag by the end. So that is my biggest complaint, is that I felt like this was a 45-minute experimental movie, and it shouldn't have been like a full feature-length thing.
I agree. We had the conversation in the car. Yeah. Again, just like everybody else, I mean, the score, easily, hands down, the best part of the movie.
Yeah.
I don't mind the jump scares. I don't mind jump scares in horror movies in general, especially ones like this, just because they didn't do it a lot. What I don't like is when movies rely only on that. And that's what, like I said, Halloween's my favorite movie just because there was very little jump scares, but there was some.
Yeah,
there was still some, and this actually had probably just as many jump scares as that one did. There wasn't as many.
There was only a handful,
like 2 or 3. The barn,
what I liked
the
about it is it was at different times of the movie where you just felt too comfortable. There were things, there was nothing going on, so it was a jump scare to get you like still in that anxious state, which is the best part of it. It keeps you anxious the entire time.
I felt like the music also kept you in that state,
So I definitely say it's worth watching. I even say that if you enjoy horror movies, 100% go see it. If I am okay enough to have spent whatever I spent on this movie ticket to go see it, I'm sure I'm great. I'm loving that. I'm sure you're going to love it yourself, because who doesn't like horror movies like that, I'm sure you are. So
before we move to Anthony, real quick, if anybody wants us to turn on Skype because you legitimately want to call in and talk about this movie, let us know now in the chat room. I'll open up the lines for
only about this movie, though.
Only about this movie. We're only talking about It Follows. I think the Lone Gunman might have seen it. I'm not sure. Anthony, go ahead.
As to beat a dead horse, the score was phenomenal. I actually really liked the acting. They were all kind of new faces, but everybody felt like did a good job. There was no, even like the clam. We're calling her the clam, the friend who like barely spoke or said anything. She did a fine job for what she needed to do. I think my biggest problem with the movie was that there were some weird edits here and there transitions. I even pointed them out to Greg.
This is a new young director.
Yeah, it definitely had a little bit of an amateurish feel here and there, but
it might have been due to the budget a little bit.
Budget and everything. I felt like, even with the thunderstorm during the during the high school scene, it was a little bit hokey.
Yeah, I agree. That felt cheesy. Why did we have to have a downpour at this moment?
Yeah, that felt a little bit hokey and cheesy, but all in all, yeah, I liked it. I'd probably give it a 7.
That was probably my least favorite scene in the entire film. Actually, they say when they're walking there, I don't have a problem with it when they're like climbing the fence and like that stuff. But like the clam speaking during that scene, like what? Like why were they telling that story of like not being able to get out of the neighborhood, the suburbs versus the city?
Right.
Like, oh yeah, my mom told me that too. I felt like it was trying to be this like deep moment, and it did not
resonate.
I thought it was going to turn into like an M. Night Shyamalan film where like there was a border up around the town, and that's what the and then it was going to be like the village where like
I said. She was probably the weakest actress of the bunch,
and for her to get that monologue,
and of course she gets the monologue.
Would you call it a cult classic?
It is definitely getting that kind of talk on the internet for sure, because it was such limited release for a while that it had that kind of cult thing going on. Thank you, Player, for the Twitch art. So I don't think it's going to stay that way. I think now it's going into wide release. Everybody's already talking about it. It's got great reviews. I think it reviewed a little higher than I would have agreed with, actually. It has like in the 8s on Rotten Tomatoes as far as average rating and 96%. That's higher than I probably would have given it myself. But I think for that reason, it's going to get enough talk that it's no longer going to remain
I personally felt like it definitely was one of the better horror movies that I've seen.
The reason why you mentioned it before, and you both did, and the reason why I think it's such a fresh breath of air is because it's so genuine. Like I feel like all these people were friends even outside the movie. Like their banter between each other was just like, oh, I could see like me and my friends saying the same stuff. Or
very believable teenagers. I agree.
It was totally,
and they didn't look too old to be teenagers too.
Yeah, no, they did not.
Yeah, it wasn't like a 31-year-old playing like a high school.
They were obviously in their late teens, early 20s. It worked. It was fine.
It did work. Yeah, I agree.
And it's a fun film. I think we all recommend it.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend it because as we've been saying, even if it's not an amazing film in the horror landscape, it's up there. Like, but that is coming from people that aren't huge into the horror genre. So take that, also before you go see this.
A recommendation.
But we would all say see it, right?
100%, especially because it's going to be on video on demand, is what I just read before we started the show. So maybe hold off if you don't want to spend the $12 that you have to spend at a theater. They'll probably go on, Comcast for $5 pretty soon.
Yeah,
definitely worth it for $5.
Oh, easily.
100%.
Oh, easily.
Get your buddies together, have some fun watching this because it's a cool movie to watch with friends. I think because it's got that urban legend creepy thing that you tell your friends when you're younger. This this thing that passes around.
I think we also talked about how like it wasn't overly violent.
No, it wasn't.
That's the other thing too.
Worked. It was fine. They didn't have to sell you with gore. Yeah. They didn't have to sell you with jump scares. No. Like
not even too much language for the most part.
Yeah, not even a lot of F-bombs or just like we were talking about how like unnatural teen trying to force that kind of.
I call it the Killzone syndrome.
It didn't play into the trope of killing.
Killzone does that. Like where they're soldiers, so they literally say the F-bomb every third word. It's like, come on. Like even if they do talk that way, it's like stop.
Yeah. But I think one of the best compliment that I can give it. It had a nice, genuine atmosphere that. And definitely distinguished itself from other horror movies.
Writer-director, promising start, so I hope to see more from him in the horror genre because I like seeing
or even in any type of indie genre. He definitely fits it pretty well.
Did we see anything about somebody wanting to call in?
No, just people chatting.
Okay. I think we'll wrap up then. Thank you so much, guys, for watching this very first Level Up review of It Follows. We might do this every now and then when we see a movie that we want to talk about. So make sure that you follow us if you haven't already at twitch.tv/The Level Up Show. Thank you, Player, for the most recent follow that just happened. You can also look at us on Twitter at The Level Up Network, Level spelled LVL. Subscribe on YouTube where we will archive this, of course.
And Patreon.
And Patreon is the biggest one, actually. Right. It's at the very bottom there, but it's the most important of them all. Go to patreon.com/The Level Up Network. You can donate and get a whole bunch of stuff in return. We're probably going to talk about some new incentives for Patreon tomorrow, myself and Greg on Level Up Direct, because we want to give back even more for our $1 patrons, especially. So look forward to that tomorrow. We'll talk about it on Level Up Direct.
Yep. Right. Yep. You follow us, and we'll follow you.
And as always, guys, until next time, take care and level up.
Level up.
Level up. See you later, guys.